You can't get hold of a factory mask, and you want to make one at home. It might be better than nothing, but there are some dangers to avoid. I'm not trying to discourage you from wearing a homemade mask. I'm trying to make you aware of the risks so that you can avoid them. Now, I assume you know that your homemade mask is going to have a comparatively bad filter and a bad face fit. Have a look at the study comparing household materials and pick the best one to make your mask out of. And beyond that, there isn't much you can do for the quality of the filter. Face fit might be easier to improve. Go around the edge of your mask and notice if there's any air leaking out. Sometimes this is surprisingly hard to do, even on factory masks. Face seal is tricky. I tried to put the surgical mask on the mannequin about as well as I could, and look at the gaps I left. Terrible. Air takes the path of least resistance, and if it can get in without going through your filter, it will. Alright, training. Now I know what you're thinking, because I thought the same. I don't need training to wear a mask. But then you see stuff like this. Look at the air gaps. Look how she hasn't unfolded the mask. She hasn't bent the metal strip to match the shape of her nose. Now I'm not having a go at this woman. At least she's wearing a mask, and it's easy to make mistakes when you don't know what you're doing. But she isn't wearing this as a demonstration of how not to wear a mask. She's travelling through Heathrow Airport. So it's easy to get stuff wrong if you don't know what you're doing. And if you want to see some training on how to put on a mask, I'll leave some links in the description. Touching your face more often. Hey, fox in the well, I don't touch my face. Oh yeah? Are you sure about that? One of the ancillary benefits of a homemade mask, aside from whatever filtration it does, is that it may stop you touching your face. If you can't reach your nose and mouth, if a mask is in the way, then that's a wonderful way of stopping your hand touching an infected surface and subconsciously moving it to your nose and mouth. However, a mask may actually irritate you and make you touch your face more often. If you're constantly adjusting it, if you're picking at the edges, if you find it itchy or hot and you're trying to scratch underneath it or lift it up, then maybe you shouldn't be wearing one, because this is also a danger. So luckily it has an easy fix. Behavioral changes are easy and cheap and in good supply. Just stop touching your face. Alright, next up. The virus builds up on the mask, particularly on the outside. Now, if your mask is filtering viruses, that's wonderful, but a downside is that they will remain on the object that filtered them. So don't touch the mask. When you take it off, try and remove it by the straps, something that hasn't been filtering, and once you've taken it off, if you're throwing it away, throw it away. And if you're planning to wash your fabric mask, then wash it. But bear in mind that that's a contaminated object once it's been used. And if you touch it, your hands may be contaminated by it, so they'll need washing too. Finally, don't let the mask give you a full sense of security. Remember, what you have is better than nothing, not a good mask. Here we can see someone who doesn't have a mask visiting the shops once, and there's a certain chance that they get coronavirus. Now they wear a homemade mask, and they go to the shops once, and there's less of a chance that they catch it. But if they start going very often because they're very confident in their homemade mask, they'll end up with a total probability that is actually increased. Remember, if you're lucky, your homemade mask will be similar to a surgical mask. And surgical masks aren't very good against viruses. But I'm not saying don't wear a homemade mask either. Lots of people in the world will be faced with the choice between a homemade mask and nothing. And I think the evidence shows that a homemade mask is better than nothing. It may offer some mild filtration of viruses. It's likely to stop droplets, both from other people infecting you and you infecting other people. And even with no filtration, a homemade mask should stop you subconsciously touching your own nose and mouth. If a homemade mask is your last resort, I think the benefits outweigh the negatives. And if you're aware of the dangers we've talked about, hopefully you can avoid them. And remember, as good as any preventative measure might be, the best way to stay safe is to isolate.